You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts. Till I Die TV, your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
All right, everybody, how are we? Good morning. How the devil are we all doing? It's good morning, good afternoon, good day, good evening, depending what part of the world you are in, of course. The season is over, and what a season it was. Ups and downs. You could say a typical Leicester season, really. They always say it's like being on a roller coaster. I think there was a couple of times this season we maybe made us feel a bit sick, but hey, that's the joy of supporting a proper football team and not a Man City or a Liverpool. But there we go. I better not get onto that topic. Got a guest today, amazing guest, and I thank him so much for coming on. That we're going to have a quick look back at Leicester season and what went wrong and right and good and bad and all that. And welcoming, you'll know him. He's played for Leicester. He's on Leicester City Radio. Gerry Taggart. Good evening, Gerry.
How you doing, Chris?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. Now, obviously, during your career, you have won accolades. You've played in important games, etc. But I have to congratulate you on, I would say, if it was me receiving this, the biggest accolade that it is possible to get. You won the Leicester Till I Die Ex-Players Prediction League.
Yeah, very, very, very humbled and very happy to receive that award, Chris, obviously. Some big names, some proper legends in that list, and always nice to see my name top of the pile.
Well, I mean, not just top, but you've Man City'd it, really, haven't you? I mean, good 8 points clear of fellow defender Walshy.
Yeah, a bit of a runaway. It wasn't a bit of a landslide victory, shall we say?
It was. And I don't want to look, don't look at the bottom of the table. I had a bit of a Norwich year. I had a good season last season, and I've gone completely down this season. But no, unfortunately, I wish I could offer you a cup for that, but I'm sure just knowing it is going to be enough.
That's plenty for me, mate. Don't you worry about that.
Thank you. So we're looking back at the 21-22 season. I mean, if we look back at it, obviously hindsight's a wonderful thing, but we started off winning the Community Shield. We finished up finishing 8th in the Premier League. We got through to a European semi-final, or maybe it wasn't the one we wanted, but it was still a semi-final, and got beaten, let's be honest with you, by a very good team. It hasn't been that bad a season, taking into account everything that's happened.
Absolutely, and I think it's important to remember that sometimes it's not how you start, it's how you finish the season. And obviously, right at the back end, with a couple of really good results away at Watford, and then obviously at home to Southampton there on Sunday. Yeah, just pushes up the table in the 8th spot. And what has been a very difficult season, that is a perfect way to end it. Simple as that. So. And there'll be a feel-good factor about the place. I know some fans will be, pulling their hair out slightly. Why did we create this form earlier on in the season, and what have you? But I think it's important to finish the season well, and it's a healthy league position, no matter what you say.
Even it's only one place outside of Europe.
Yeah, and when you take everything into consideration, Chris. Which again, some people won't. But you've got to, if you're going to analyse the season, then you have to do it, from start to finish. And that takes a lot of time. So I think it's important that the team finish the season well. Last game at home, Birchie's 40th and final run.
Oh, amazing.
4 goals. I mean, it's a perfect way to end the season. And that just hopefully the fans will go away from that feeling a lot happier and a lot more confident about, you know, the coming pre-season and the subsequent season.
I mean, you know, a lot of people were saying to me, well, you know, it was the easiest finish. We had Norwich and Watford who were already down, Southampton who could have been down had they not had the decent start. But you can only beat who's in front of you. And earlier on in the season, with everything that was going on, basically with the injuries, we might not have played that well.
And you've got to remember that Norwich game, along with the Chelsea game as well, they were fixture pile-ups from COVID infection. So I think there was 15 games, in April and May for the players to negotiate. And obviously there was the semi-final of the Europa Conference League as well. And, you know, as you said, a tough tie, travelling away to Rome, in between all that. So there was no let-up for the players.
No.
And it's all right, we did get players back towards the end of the season, but to try and get them up to match pace in such a short time is really, really difficult. But you've seen towards the end of it, you know, some of the football that was being played, you know, as I said, especially at Watford and Southampton, second half against Norwich was good as well. And the game at Chelsea, you know, they acquitted themselves really well at Chelsea.
Yeah. Dave. I think the team bus must have been full of kitchen sinks coming back up from Chelsea. They were throwing that many at us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But
I suppose
all right, the players were coming back, but you know, it has been a difficult season. You have to take that into consideration. And then when you finish the season, you see where you finish in the league, you see your points total, and then you go, well, what could have been? Where could we have changed things? Obviously, we might move on to the obvious place where things could have changed significantly in the season. Regarding the set pieces, but when you've got that many players out injured for such a long space of time, it just disrupts everything that you've planned for as a manager.
Definitely. As a fan, I think you look up. I always say you look up fan in the dictionary. It says fickle. You know, we are that way. And the better we do, the better we want to do. And you know, we very much. And I'd let myself fall into this trap a couple of times this season. It's like, well, we should be playing better than this because look at what we were doing last season. And you can't do that because every season is different. You know, we had, I think it was 26, 27 injuries throughout the season, 9 of which were to defensive players. I mean, Vestergaard's come in, he's taken a lot of stick, and I've given a lot of stick out as well. But when you think about it, I know hindsight's an amazing thing, but he came into a defence that was struggling anyway. He was a very much covering Fofana. I don't think Brendan expected him to play that many games, but he didn't know who he was going to be playing with 1 week to the next.
No, absolutely. You know, he's found it tough, Vestergaard, you have to say, to settle in. And as you say, when he has get in, he struggled. He's done well in certain games, in other games he struggled. The formation that Brendan wants to play probably doesn't suit him. He always played in 3 centre halves. At Southampton, and obviously Brendan's probably preferred formation is playing with 2 centre halves and 2 full backs. So it has been a bit of a struggle for him at Vestergaard. There's no sort of hiding behind that. But I'm not saying it was a panic buy. But at that stage where, you know, Leicester were struggling going into the season for centre halves, then he had to get somebody in quick. And he fit the bill at that moment in time. And it was a bit of a gamble. And it's fair to say that the gamble probably hasn't paid off. But hindsight's a wonderful thing. You know, Brendan had a decision to make. He needed a defender in. Vestergaard was available at the right price. You know, we haven't got on to the transfer kitty yet. There wasn't as much money available to Brendan as there has been in recent seasons.
Of course, yes.
And so that was a decision that Brendan had to make there and then to bring in a centre half at the right money, available and hopefully at the right standard. And unfortunately, struggled a bit this season.
I mean, when you look at, obviously, we weren't expecting the injury to Fofana That was well. Let's not get onto that. But the fact that within a week we'd got another defender in, ready to go, shows how quickly we responded. And like you say, you could not see what was coming up for the rest of the season. But
no, absolutely.
And I'd love to see what he does next season when we get a more settled sort of team and what have you. So that will be interesting. But let's start with some. Well, not really. Let's start. Let's go back and start to the start of the season and start with some good news. I mean, people call it the Community Shield. I prefer it to be called the English Super Cup, because that's what they call it in other countries. Okay, you could say Manchester City didn't particularly put a strong team out. It doesn't matter. We won it, having won the FA Cup. And we probably played better in a way when we lost to Man United in the last one. But Kelechi Iheanacho, on the back of the form last season, very coolly stood up and took it. I was there with my son, which was amazing. I've never been to Wembley with my son and seen us win anything. So it was an amazing feeling. But it was a good start to the season, wasn't it?
It was. And like you say, it's another trophy in the cabinet. You've already said it. You can only beat what's put in front of you. Man City, you're right, didn't particularly feel the strong side, but that's neither here nor there, if you're asking. And it's always, playing in a game like that at Wembley with, you can debate whether or not people say, is it a competitive game, yes or no? It's immaterial. It's a great way to get your season underway before it actually starts, before the season actually starts, is to play in a game of that magnitude at Wembley Stadium. And so when you're in that moment as a player and as a manager and as a coaching staff, then what the Community Shield stands for is neither here nor there. You're playing in Wembley to win a game of football the week before the actual season starts. So it's a great filler. It's a great opener. It's a great way to get, your match fitness to a real premium before the season starts.
You want to win it as a player, don't you? You're at Wembley, like you said, and all this sort of the players didn't perform for this game or they didn't perform for that game. They don't go out and not want to perform. They don't say, "Well, I'm going to have a bit easy today." They go out, and as a sportsman, you want to win every game, and winning a trophy and parading that trophy around the ground to your fans, that means so much, doesn't it?
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, players at the end, they're only human. Yeah. But their attitude is they focus on a game-by-game basis. It's really difficult. The most difficult thing about being a professional footballer is not necessarily the fitness levels, it's the focus levels. And sometimes you could say that the focus on certain games hasn't been what it should have been, but that's where the human element comes into it.
Yes.
But, in saying that, like you've already said, you're playing in a game at Wembley. It's against Man City. It's for a trophy. Yeah. So in my mind, it's a competitive game, no matter what anybody else says, because there's something for grabs.
Definitely.
And at the end of the day, they won it. It's as simple as that. It'll go down in the record books as a Leicester win. So it doesn't really matter what anybody else says.
It doesn't, exactly. If we'd lost it, I would be calling it obviously the Community Shield. But because we won it, that's why it's the English Super Cup. That we did well in. That was on the back of an amazing FA Cup win, and that I was watching. I didn't get to Wembley for that one. I was watching it on the TV with my son. We were both in tears at the end of it. And I think we're both in tears after this match as well, because we kind of went out with a whimper, didn't we? And I think it made it worse that it was against Forest. Now, I couldn't understand it, because this was right in the middle of the COVID crisis.
Yeah,
we played Watford the tie before, and we'd ended up, I think, with 4 or 5 under 23s on the pitch. Yeah. And we beat Watford, whatever you say, they're a Premier League team. We beat them 4-1. We then get the big players back, if you like, and we go to Forest and we lose it 4-1. I mean, it kind of that kind of sums our season up in 2 games, doesn't it?
Well, if you go back to what I just said a bit earlier, there's been games this season where the focus probably hasn't been right, and this is definitely one of those games. I'm not sure why that was. I'm not sure whether or not some of the players didn't understand what, the East Midlands rivalry between certain clubs, including Forest and Leicester. There's obviously a rivalry there, obviously not as big as the Derby Forest, but definitely a rivalry there. And whether or not all the players got the memo that day, because the Forest players definitely got the memo.
Yes.
But the Leicester players didn't. And that was a game where, for me, the focus, the mental attitude of some of the players wasn't quite right. And, when you look at Forest have got some players who are good enough to play in the Premier League. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
So they went out that day and deserved to win it. It's as simple as that, Chris. And for me, it wasn't about the physicality of the game. It was just about how some of the players approached the beginning of that game. It started right from the off for me.
Do you think, and this is the guy I said at the time, and I'm not against, European, Asian, African, or whatever players coming into the league. Obviously, all it does is enhance it and makes it a better league. But do you think they don't get the derbies like, English fans or English-based fans do?
I don't know. I'm sure there's derbies all over the world where there's, tension in the crowd, tension between fans, tension between players, and even, both benches at certain times during the game. So I'm not quite sure about that. But obviously it's one of the less well-known rivalries in football. But I'm sure
Gerry did put it in the top 10 in his match of the day special, but I think that might have been blue tinted spectacles.
Yeah, I think if you were to have a rerun of that game, I'm sure that result would not recreate itself. Let's put it that way.
No,
I think definitely understand what it means to play against Forest if you're playing for Leicester.
Yeah, just quickly to stick on Forest, they're obviously in the playoffs this weekend against Huddersfield.
Yeah.
For me, out of the 4 teams, I would have loved to have seen Luton come up because they've not been up yet, and I like to see those sort of clubs, like the Brentfords, come up and have a go at it. As an ex-Leicester player, as a commentator, do you want Forest to come up so we can have 2 local derbies next year, or would you sooner say, "Nah, let's keep them down in the in the second tier"?
Good question. I think it'd be great for the East Midlands if Forest came up. No matter how, your association as far as whether you like Forest or not. But I think for the East Midlands as a whole, then it just generates a lot more publicity. There's a lot more. There's a bit more fever pitch around the place, especially in the build-up.
Yes, yeah. And you might get Sky actually showing those 2 games as well.
I'm not saying it should be something you're not. I'm going to say it should be something you're looking forward to. Potentially points off Forest next season. What's not to look forward to?
Good man, good. I mean, we should say as well, because we've got Derby, we're in the second tier, and I should say, as much as we've got the rival with Derby, and yes, we can kind of laugh at them dropping into the 3rd tier, but I'm really pleased that they didn't go out of business, because I wouldn't wish any club to do that. We've been there ourselves. We know what it's like. But I've got to give credit to the job Wayne Rooney did there. I mean, so many points left. He could have gone off and walked off to Everton, but he stayed at Derby, and he nearly pulled off the impossible, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great achievement. Your first job as a football manager going into Derby, who have got a magnitude of issues and troubles to try. So he's got to try and negotiate them. He's trying to negotiate a possible takeover that is still ongoing. I'm reading new stuff every day on Twitter about it. Like, why doesn't this just get sorted out? And so, yeah, Wayne Rooney, we swimming against the tide basically the moment he went in and decided to be a manager. But he probably knew what he was taking on before he took the job, and was probably just desperate to get a chance to become a manager. So yeah, he's done himself no harm, that's for sure, in the job that he's done.
Yeah, indeed. And we'll move on now. And well, I'm not in favour with European competitions of if you fail in one competition that you drop down into the one underneath. We nearly saw Manchester United win the Europa League because they'd failed in the Champions League. I don't agree with that, but it is what it is. It's what we've got to live with. Europe, if it ever was a roller coaster ride, this was it. We're in the Europa League. It started out so well, that 2-0 up at Napoli. It was a 2-2 draw at the end, but what a good start. And then Europa League itself on the last day, I think we were all top. All 4 teams were top at some point.
Yeah, it was a nail biter right till the end, wasn't it? And it was. Yes. I think I said that. I was saying this is going to go all the way down to the last kick and the last ball in the last minute of the last game, and it seemingly went that way.
Yeah.
You had 4 teams who were all capable of taking points off each other. And, it was just unfortunate that Leicester just couldn't get that result they needed to get themselves into the knockout stages of the Europa League. And it just shows you what a tough league it is.
Indeed. And I always say, how many years did it take Man City to actually progress out of the groups in the Champions League? It took them a while. We then went down into the conference. Now, Napoli, and this was something that divided the fans. For yourself, Gerry, would you sooner have been in Leicester to be in Napoli's shoes, where you get through and you have a great game against Barcelona, or drop down into the conference where we actually went up going probably further than we would have done?
Yeah, I know. Again, it's a hard one. I think it's a hard one to try and analyze it. Then, like you say, I was in Eindhoven. Obviously, watched the games against Roma, which were two top teams.
Yes,
Rennes a very good team as well. So there's 3 really good teams in a third-tier European competition. And obviously Leicester getting through against 2 of them was no mean feat. Absolutely fantastic. So you probably just about are on that side, to be honest with you, because it kept the season alive for a lot of people. We're sort of going through that little lull in the league at that time. And the one shining light was we were still in that Europa Conference League. So probably just about, but if you qualify for a competition by right, and then you get through the knockout stages and you're coming up against a team like Barcelona, then that's one of the pinnacles of your career as a player.
Yes.
And so I can see where, we qualified for that competition on merit. We've reached the knockout stages and we're playing Barcelona. Then that is, I deserve to be here as a player. Yeah. So I can see where that would be a little bit crushing as an individual, because you didn't get to play against a team like Barcelona in a competition that you had qualified for on merit, and then you were going down into another competition that, as you said before, you miss out on one competition, you get through on the, well, we used to call it the plate competition we was on. So you didn't get kicked out, but you went through a different competition. So I can see that, but I think when you analyse it and take it where we were in that time, I think definitely the Conference League competition was a really good thing for everyone involved at Leicester.
And I think it took a bit of, I don't think calling it the conference was a good thing for England, because we obviously, for me anyway, when I think conference, I think sort of 5th tier of football, part-timers, etc. and then just tagging it onto the Europa probably didn't give it the esteem that it probably deserved.
Yeah.
But obviously, a lot of teams were sort of Arsenal fans. I'd sooner not qualify for Europe than qualify, for the Conference League. Man United fans, they're saying, well, if we were to qualify, we'd have just used it to put the kids out. Well, we can see what Man United do next season with it. But to me, I mean, that is sort of, I suppose, a top 6 fan base sort of idea. To me, it's a European Cup. And when you got through to the semi-final, to the quarterfinals, taking out Blood Glimt, there was, 7 teams in there that had all been in the Champions League within the last 10 seasons.
Yeah, and that was the most surprising thing. You look at the final, it's Roma against Feyenoord, 2 experienced teams in Europe. And as you say, you had Eindhoven, Rennes, 1 or 2 others. Their names escape me. I'm sure you've got the list. I haven't got the list. But
no.
Some pedigree teams, like you say, still in the competition.
Yeah. Marseille, for example.
Marseille were the other semi-finalists, weren't they?
Yeah.
So some big teams left in the competition.
Yes. And the fact that Josie is actually, I don't know who Rosie is. That might have let me cat out the bag. Josie, I mean, he's taking it seriously. He really wants to win this, and then obviously he's won all 3. And to me, a European competition is a competition, and I'm proud of the fact that we got through to the semi-final and we went out to really what was a big team with a big manager.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, they had 1 chance in both legs and scored them both. 1 proper chance.
Yeah. But again, a good team, that's all you need to do, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's it. They did their homework. They obviously were, susceptible from set pieces. They had 7 or 8 players who were 6 foot plus, whereas Leicester in Rome had 2 who were 6 foot plus. And in the end, that was the difference. Now, you talked about the injuries earlier. Had Wilfred Ndidi been fit, would that have made a difference on the night? Who knows? But you'd like to say that Rome would have found things slightly more difficult than what they did from that corner kick and scoring that goal in the second leg. So. We can debate that till the cows come home.
Oh, yes, we could. I mean, you mentioned corners, and we can't avoid it. We've been awful at them most of the season, and I never forget that there was a commentary I was listening to. I think it was either Sky or BT, and the opposition had got a corner. And the commentator said, well, it's a corner to whichever team it was. Against Leicester, that's as good as a goal. And he hadn't even finished saying it, and the opposition had scored. Eventually, obviously, it was changed. But the fans were screaming out and saying, this zonal marking just wasn't working.
Yeah. Well, I think he's tried everything, Brendan, this season, hasn't he? I know when he came in, he started with a zonal marking, went so far this season with it, changed it to semi-zonal, man-to-man marking. Yeah. Then he changed it. I think it was against Tottenham. He changed it where Wesley Fofana was going to stand on the edge of a 6-yard box and just attack every ball. Harry Kane had a free header. He missed time to jump, I think, Fofana, which was unfortunate. So you can't say that the manager and the coaching staff aren't trying everything on their part. But again, I think talking from someone who used to defend a lot of set pieces for a living.
Yeah.
What I don't see is, as a collective, is people, and this is, again, I'll go back to the mindset. This is all to do with the mindset. This is all to do with the psychology of a player. Is you have to want to go and head the ball. The problem with zonal marking is there's too many variables there for someone to go and head the ball. Yeah, because you're given an area of space to stand in. And anything that comes with inside that space, it's your job to go and head it. But there's too many grey areas in that in itself. I used to mark zonally as well with, earlier on in my career, and I didn't like it. I'd rather. I was someone who liked being given the responsibility of stopping someone from scoring, because everything's a bit more black and white then. If you're a man,
it is. Yeah.
But I was also someone who wanted to go and head the ball. And I think, I'm not saying that they don't want to go and head the ball, but I think at times the commitment or the decision-making process in going to head the ball either takes too long, or they can't make their mind up whether or not that it's their ball or they're going to leave it for somebody else. And I think that's where a lot of the problems have arisen for Leicester this season.
Yeah. Do you think? I mean, let's have a look. I mean, this is how the table finished. I mean, all I was saying in the last 3 or 4 games was, please just get into that top. I wanted to be on the first graphic on Match of the Day when they looked at the table and they brought it up. I wanted to be in that top half. That was it for me. And of course, we did finish 8th, which was an extra couple of million. It's not to be sniffed at, in fairness. But do you think sometimes, like we say, we'd had 2 very good seasons. Let's face it, you can't deny it. 2 5th places, an FA Cup, a Community Shield. 2 seasons of Europe, and every now and again, a club does have a season when it kind of struggles a little bit, and maybe it has to, like Brendan sort of hinted at, maybe it has to reinvent itself, have a shuffle round. But it's all part of football. You cannot sort of build on success all the time, can you?
Well, it's difficult. It's difficult, Chris, because, Leicester are a team that, although they're not a selling club anymore, they do sell players. I think Ben Chilwell was the last one to be sold, if memory serves me, for a amount of money. He was the last one. And then trying to find players to come in and replace the players you've lost. Like, Mahrez, we sold Mahrez to Man City. We haven't replaced Mahrez. We haven't found a replacement for him. And we've been trying for the last 2 or 3 seasons to find a replacement for him, and it just hasn't happened. We're trying to find a replacement for Jamie Vardy. We're trying to bring in centre forwards who will eventually take over the mantle from Jamie Vardy as he moves on in his years. And it's not easy. And this is the problem, but the longer it takes you to find that player, the more the transfer price goes up on an individual, whether he's world class, whether he comes out of nowhere, or whether he comes out of, he's a well-established player somewhere on the continent or somewhere in England. The transfer price year on year keeps going up and up and up. And unfortunately for Leicester, they're not at that level where they can go out and compete with, let's face it, you just read off the league table there, the top 6 are as is in regards to size of transfer kitties, but the budget, stadium sizes and everything else. The top 6 is as it should be, let's say. And then next there's West Ham and then Leicester.
Yes.
Okay. So Leicester to finish 8th in the season, the season that they've had, and the top 6 to actually finish in the top 6, the top 6 so-called biggest clubs to finish in that order. Okay, not in the order most of them want to finish in, i.e. your Man Uniteds and maybe your Arsenals, but that's the way this season's gone. And sometimes, it's not ideal, but that's football. And sooner or later, the money that's invested in clubs, whether it's Arsenal who've been struggling for a few seasons, Tottenham don't know whether they're coming or going, seem to have their act together under Conte, Manchester United, God only knows what's happening there. We're
going to look back at the season and go, well, as bad as it wasn't as bad as Man United.
Exactly. I mean, let's get real for a minute. You really do need to just sit back, analyse what's actually happened to this football club in the last 5 or 6 years.
Yes.
And maybe next season, no European football will be the best thing that's ever happened.
Go. We won the title last time that happened, didn't we? But it's very true what you're saying about the top six being the top six. I mean, the last 2 seasons, excuse me, everybody was going on about, oh, we bottled fourth. I don't see it that way. I think we overachieved to get to fifth for who Leicester were.
I think when you're in that situation as a player and a manager with the points in hands, and you'll always said, well, have points on the board and games in hand anyway. But so when you're in that situation and you sort of, I'm not going to say blow up, but it just gets away from you on the last day of the season twice, then that is hard to take, I have to say. But you're right in saying to be in that situation on the last day of the season for the last 2 seasons, and with a chance of finishing top 4, it is a monumental achievement by any standard. Yeah. It really is. And again, I think that's lost on a few people, and it shouldn't be.
No, not at all. Like I say, it was amazing that we are now even, being talked about in that sort of context. But the thing was, when we did finish 5th, there was no Arsenal. They were in, like you said, in demise. Yeah. You said again, Tottenham were in demise. And there was no other team coming through, apart from Leicester, that was kind of challenging. Now, this season, you've had Arsenal and Tottenham have got their act together. Yeah. West Ham have been there for a second season. You've had like the likes of Wolves and Brighton maybe looking at. There's more people going for that role that there was only us going for a couple of seasons ago.
Absolutely, and that's turning the league sort of, I don't know, trying to pull itself together a bit. Clubs and fans are fed up with other clubs, not achieving or the expectations that like the Arsenal and the Tottenhams. And this season, they've pulled it right. And West Ham have been a threat all season. All right, they've tailed away. But as I say, the top 6 is as you would think it should be in regard to the size of the football clubs. So nobody can really have any arguments there. And you throw into the mix the injuries and the COVID, the games that were postponed to COVID, and then heaped on us right at the back end of the season when you're already in the middle of a European campaign.
Yes.
I mean, and you're still missing 1, 2, 3 of your key players. And this goes back to strength and depth of your squad. Leicester don't have the strength and depth of squad that other clubs do. And even one player in Mulford and Didi being out missing for that last run in is a massive blow to a team like Leicester. A massive blow. Is that integral? As good as Papi Mendy's done in the league, his physical stature and his presence, especially from i.e. defending set pieces, just isn't the same. And so that plays its part in a 10 to 15 game mini season. And that's where the likes of Wilfred and Didi have been sorely missed.
Oh, definitely. But funny you should mention Mendy, because I was just going to ask, because some players, they've had to come and stand and take that step up and stand up and be counted and fill in. Mendy's one of them, and Marte's another. Yeah. I mean, they're not necessarily, normally first name choices on the team sheet, but none of them have really let us down badly. In Amarte, I can remember at the Community Shield walking up, hearing the team announced, hearing Amarte's name, and all the Leicester fans, oh no, but end of the season, it was like, why has he dropped Amarte? What with Amarte? These players have come through. Chowdhury's another one who, that game when we beat Liverpool, he was immense in it. Obviously, the worry is that we might lose some of these now, and we'll come on to transfers in a minute. But some of these, edge of first team players, if you like, have stood up this season.
Yeah, and you need them. You need squad players. You need people that are, I'm not saying they're happy, but are willing, to play 15 games, 20 games a season and not always be first choice. And that's what Dan Amarte and Papi Mendy have done. Papi Mendy wasn't even in the Premier League squad to begin with. But I think for him, going to the African Cup of Nations and winning it was, done his confidence the world of good. And I'm fair play to Brendan for reversing his decision that he made on Papi Mendy and then bringing him back in the fold. probably his hands might have been tied. He needed players, but Mendy has rewarded him.
Yes.
Essentially with his performance. And the same with Dan Amate. Very versatile Amate, as we know. But, slowly but surely, especially when Fofana and Evans were out and Vestergaard, wasn't first choice, then Dan Amate and Soyuncu, helped drag Leicester through that really hard little period. And, actually helped them get a couple of really good results. The one that springs to mind is Burnley away. When Maddison and Vardy came back and came on and both scored the goals. But, it was Amate and Soyuncu hard defence, making sure that it stayed 0-0 all the way through a couple of those games. And let the flair players were able to come on and win the game for us.
Yeah. No, it's very true. And that leads very nicely onto... oops, hang on. It would do if I pressed the right button. Transfer window is nearly upon us.
Yeah.
A lot of fans, me included, are shouting, for God's sake, just go and sign Lookman. Whatever else we do in this window, get him to put pen to paper. I mean, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. Of course we don't. But he's got to be considering making that move permanent, hasn't he?
You would have thought so. I think he likes it here. I think, the manager likes him. I think he's still a little bit inconsistent for me, but he's a wide player and they're notoriously inconsistent. Same for Harvey Barnes this season's been inconsistent by his standards. You only really have Mr. Reliable Mark Albrighton, who never seems, to flinch from a 6 and a 7 every week. If you look at Lookman's career, he's been about a lot. He's had a lot of clubs in a short space of time. Hasn't really found a home that suited him or where he's felt this is where I'm going to play my best football. Have we seen that while he's been on loan at Leicester? Yeah, we've seen some great stuff from him. It's like some really, creative attacking play, goals to boot. Is there more to come? Yes, I think he needs to reach those levels on a lot more occasions. Can he do that if he's here on a permanent basis? Possibly. And these are probably the things that are going through Brendan Rodgers' mind and other people's minds. Why has he had so many clubs in a short space of time? Why is he not flourished at any one place? Why is he flourishing on loan here? What happens if we sign him? If we sign him, does go back into his shell again and just become a squad player, a bit bar player who comes on and does it once every 5 or 6 games? These are all the questions you've got to ask yourself because, it's a big investment. As I said to you before, you're trying to find that missing link between your Riyad Mahrez's of this world when Leicester were on top form, who between him and Jamie Vardy, made the team tick. And at the minute, has Ademola Lookman got the potential to fill Riyad Mahrez's boots? Yes, to a degree. But in my mind, have we seen enough of that? Don't know. At times, yes, we have. And he's definitely somebody on the tip of a lot of people's tongues.
But do you think this was a hard season for him to really show anything with the way it's been injury-wise and COVID and cancellations? He's not been able to maybe show that consistency, but if you compare him to
other players available as well that could come at a similar price to Lookman.
Yeah.
They have done more for different clubs.
Yes.
And so one name I seen was the guy at Burnley, Cornet, who looks a really exciting player.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying that's somebody that Brendan would go for, but he's definitely a player that's too good to play in the Championship. He'll be on a transfer target for a lot of Premier League clubs. Now, what does he bring that Lookman doesn't bring? These are all the questions you've got to ask as a manager. And yes, Lookman is definitely on that list, and I would say he's pretty close to the top. But that doesn't mean that you've got to go and just jump in and sign him. There's a lot of debate that'll have to go on before that's done.
It's a very, very, very good point. I mean, talking to transfer windows, I think we've accepted Tielemans is going to go. It would it be wrong to if he doesn't find a club, because he obviously wants to play in the Champions League. So whichever club he's going to go to, I think has got to obviously be able to offer him that. If it doesn't go, we've obviously got the risk of losing him for a free anyway. So surely it is in the club's interest to say, come on, we've been talking now for a year, you're not going to sign. Let's see where you can go.
Yeah, it's a subject I don't like speaking about because he's a top guy and he's a better player than he is human being. And he's obviously a player who's come in and transformed the football that the club plays at the minute. I mean, he's a top player.
Yes.
And losing him will be almost as big as when Jamie Vardy decides to hang his boots up.
Yes.
And it's hard to try and... I'm sure Brendan has a plan for it. But how do you replace a player of that quality? Some of the football that guy's capable of is just mind-blowing. So yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult, Chris. It's difficult to know where Yuri's at as far as his mind. Whether or not, yes, he wants to play Champions League. And yes, he's good enough to play Champions League. So
yes,
I suppose as a football club, you have to accept that.
And I think he will go with most fans' good wishes.
Absolutely, it's where he goes.
Yeah,
that's the issue for Yuri is where's he going to go? All right, I know Arsenal would he get in Tottenham's team? Absolutely. Would he get in Arsenal's team? Absolutely. Would he? The only other team he would be able to go to, for me in my mind, it would then be abroad.
Yes, yeah. He may go abroad. All the papers are saying he's going to this English or that English club, but he may decide he wants to go abroad.
Yeah, exactly. But definitely, if he leaves Leicester, which, as you rightly say, a lot of fans will, applaud him and go there with open hands and say, "Well done, you've been brilliant for us." But it leaves a big hole in that midfield. Big hole.
Definitely. Last question before I let you go, and I appreciate your time and everything. England squad announced yesterday. I did a show with Dan, who was a Burnley fan, and he said to me, which Leicester players would you put in the squad? And I said Justin and Maddison. Justin's in. Really, really pleased for the guy. I don't know what Maddison has got to do, to be honest with you. Does he now look to see if he's got an Irish grandfather or a Welsh aunt or something? So managers just don't seem to like certain players, and he's obviously gone off the radar. But, he's played more times than Grealish. He's got more goals, more assists than Grealish.
Yeah.
What has the guy got to do?
I don't know.
None of us know, do we?
I voted for him for Player of the Season, and he got that. I think he's been brilliant. Again, another shining light in what's been, a roller coaster of a season. His assists and his goals speak for themselves. I think it's his highest ever return.
Yeah.
Since he started professional football. And so, in answer to your question, I don't know, Chris. Like you say, certain managers. All I can think of is certain managers have picked players in the past and they've never let them down as far as England are concerned. The likes of your Mason Mounts, Jack Grealish's, and so on and so forth. And so for James Maddison to get into Southgate's squad, he has to have done something really exceptional.
Yeah.
Mind. And is he changing like for like, even though his goals turn is a lot better than... I think Mason Mount's has Mason Mount been involved in 20 goals this season or something like that?
He's been a fair few, definitely, yes.
Yeah, so is that why... Am I going to leave Grealish or Mount out and bring Maddison in? No, because these two... Okay, Grealish hasn't had the season that he probably would have wanted, even though it's still been a good season for him. But he's been there, seen it and done it with Gareth Southgate. Gareth Southgate knows how he ticks, know what makes him, know what makes him get out on a pitch and play for him. He's already had one or two dealings with Maddison in the past that, according to what sources you listen to, didn't go according to plan.
Yeah.
So maybe that's one of the reasons why. It's obviously not based on football ability.
No, but do you not think, like you said there very rightly, that he knows what Grealish can offer? He knows what certain other players can offer. This, I know it's definitely, it's the Nations League, so there's a trophy, blah, blah, blah. But we've kind of got the World Cup coming up at the end of the season.
Yeah, I know. This is all massive preparation for the World Cup. Massive.
Yeah, exactly. So why isn't he, to me, I couldn't understand why he wasn't saying, I know what Grealish can do. Let's give Maddison a go. Let him prove himself. We know what Kane can do. So let's give Watkins a chance to prove himself. To me, if any of us fans said, "Oh, we haven't won the Nations League," we wouldn't be crying in our coffee.
Managers invariably don't think like that, Chris. You don't think, let's have a look at him or let's look at Gareth Southgate. Travels around the country week in, week out looking at players. He knows exactly what he wants and who he can get it out of, and that's the way to work. Because they only have so many games a season. I don't believe that they think, well, let's have a look at him or let's have a look at this player or that player. Invariably, I mean, there might be the odd one that bucks the trend, but invariably he sticks with what he's got and he tries to get that feeling, that good vibe feeling between the players as often as possible, because they only meet up every other month or whenever it is. So he wants to keep that little community tight together, and he wants them all sort of spinning and banging off each other. And
in fairness, let's say he's not had a bad run as England manager, has he?
No,
really,
not doing too much wrong, is it? No. Not that I follow England. I have to.
No, of course you don't. No, you were possibly the wrong person to ask about.
I'll be following Johnny Evans closely.
Yes. Well, you need to get those books out and do a bit of ancestry.com or whatever it is on James Maddison. See if he's got any Irish blood in him.
I think James just needs. I think because it's a World Cup season. Yeah, it's a World Cup year.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't a World Cup year, then James probably would have had a good chance of finding himself in a squad. But as I said, this preparation now going into a World Cup year is massive. And I just think Gareth Southgate knows exactly, barring one or two players, what he wants and who he wants. And he's going to rumble that between now and November. I might be wrong, but
point. And of course, we remember Roy Hodgson going into a World Cup and not having any idea what his best lineup was. So we can't. Hey, we're fans. We're never happy, are we? We're never happy.
Well,
Jerry, I really appreciate, because this is your time. I really appreciate you giving your time up to come on and do this. Thank you so very, very much.
No problem.
Massive congratulations on winning the, Leicester Till I Die Ex-Players League.
League.
Hopefully he'll be back next season to defend it.
Yeah.
All the best to you and all your family. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks a lot, Chris.
Take care, Jerry. Thank you. Many, many thanks to Jerry. He talks sense. something I haven't learned to do yet. That is the difference between him and me. He talks sense. I just waffle. But he's made some very, very good points there. Yes, we as fans think Maddison maybe should have gone. But then again, if he doesn't go, he's not going to get injured. He made some good points about Vestergaard, Notts Forest and Derby, our corners, and obviously the likes of Amati and Mendy. A very, very, very good interview, and I really appreciate his time in coming on. He gives up his time, which is his own personal time, to come on and do these things. Really appreciate it. Top guy, top player. Absolutely total respect to him. If you haven't already, and this hasn't, well, it has gone out live, but it's gone out at this time because of when it can be fitted in. So it's going to be premiered later. If you haven't already and you are watching this, please just give us a subscribe on YouTube. It which really, really would be much appreciated. Please do subscribe. And if you haven't already, there is a new channel that's about New Kid on the Block, Football versus Cancer. It's run by a good friend of mine. And he is obviously doing it for, getting it out there, getting people to know it, especially men's cancer. We tend to sort of poo-poo it a lot. But Football versus Cancer is on Twitter. It's on YouTube as Football versus Cancer. If you haven't already, it is a great, great cause. Go over there and subscribe. His details are in the description below on YouTube. Thank you for watching if you have been on YouTube, whether this is live or catch up. And if you've been listening on your favourite podcast platform, whatever that is, the main ones are up there. And thank you so much for taking the time to do that as well. Really do appreciate it. I will see you soon. Take care. Enjoy yourself, but don't do anything I wouldn't enjoy. Goodbye now.
Watch us on YouTube. Listen on your favourite podcast platform. Or ask your smart speaker to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Subscribe, like, follow, and join in now.
Broadcasting live worldwide.